Victor? Come here for a second. Where do I go to turn on the mics?
Tap the screen. Just hit the X on the screen. Don't do it too often because it gets confused. You gotta give it time.
There we go. Okay, we're all set.
Ready? I'd like to call to order this May 21st, 2019 meeting of the EOTC. First item.
First item, call to order, roll call, and agenda changes. Roll call, sir.
Please.
Matthew Yankee.
Present.
Matthew Yankee present. Fiona Hinsey.
Present.
Fiona Hinsey present. Chair Hyland.
Present.
Chair Hyland present. We have a quorum. Agenda changes. I spoke with Dent Tedeschi today, shortly before this hearing, and he informed me that he would not be appearing for his two matters.
Okay.
He does not feel comfortable coming into City Hall without some sort of written confirmation from the sheriff's office that he can enter City Hall with his dog untethered. And until that actually happens, he said he will be here for the June 5th hearing of the SOTF, but not today.
Okay.
So I have a question that might inform our decision on how to move forward. So he said he wasn't comfortable without written confirmation.
Yes, from the sheriff's office.
Yeah, we can discuss that when we call them, but
It was agenda change, though.
yeah. Well, if we want to, we can take it or we can move it to the end.
Okay. Item
What
number
else do
2.
we have? If someone would like to make a motion to move those two items to the end, we could do that and discuss that and get to the people that are already here first.
Sure, I can do that.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a motion to have agenda change. Any public comment on that motion? Seeing none, let's take a roll call on that.
Member Hinsey?
Aye.
Member Hinsey, aye. Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Chair Hyland?
Aye.
Chair Hyland, the motion to move to the end of the agenda passes.
So that was items 4 and 5.
Correct.
Okay. So now we're back to item 2.
Item number 2, adoption of the minutes for the January 15, 2019 Education Outreach and Training Committee meeting.
Technically, none of us were here.
Yeah.
I was,
Oh, you were?
Yes.
Good.
Okay, why don't you go
Excellent.
I was here.
through?
All right.
and they look fine, so I would move to approve the minutes.
All right.
Second.
Okay. Public comment? Motion to approve minutes? Seeing none? Can we take that by acclamation? All right. Next item.
Item number 3, public comment. Members of the public may address the Education Outreach and Training Committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda.
If anybody has any general public comment, now's the time to step up and say your piece. I think everyone here are probably parties. I don't see anyone. They can still do general public comment. So, seeing no general public comment is closed. Item 6.
Item 6. Item number 6, file number 18079, hearing on the status of the order of determination, complaint filed by Ellen Sang against Lily Magis and the Department of Building Inspection for violating Administrative Code Section 6721 by failing to respond to a public records request in a timely and/or complete manner.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Clerk.
I just want to let you know that this was heard by the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force and referred to the committee. The order from the task force was to provide the requested documents in an unredacted format. And that's what we should be considering today.
Okay. And have we received any documents from planning to that effect in our package?
Lily Magis has some,
He's bringing a big box up, I can see.
her response was late, so I suggested that she make copies for all of us
Okay,
of the documents that were responsive to this request, to provide all of us on the committee, myself and Ms. Sang, a copy, and possibly leave a copy for general public review.
okay. I'm happy with that. So typically, we don't accept documents at this late stage, but because this is EOTC and compliance, I think we'll go ahead and allow it. And of course, Ms. Sang, you're not expected to review these right now, since you're just getting them. Yeah, we'll call you up in a second. And you have this in electronic format as well, right?
So
You do, okay.
is the stack of documents that Matt's holding identical to the one that Chris is holding, or?
You need to.
So let's go ahead and hear from Ms. Wong first, since
Sang.
Ms. Sang rather, and then we'll give you a chance.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Actually, Ms. Sang, do you want her to present first, just because she's just
Yeah,
given
then-
us these? Let her say her piece, and then you can digest that and respond, or would you rather go first? It's up to you.
Matt, can you grab me that
Okay.
letter? Can you grab me the letter?
I agree. We don't have time to read it. Okay, so.
Before I say, I have a one document.
Can you pull the
I want-
microphone, please?
Okay.
Closer, yeah. All right.
How can I put this here? So
I
that,
don't
I
think
want to
so. We'll see.
present one page. How do I do
Oh,
that?
overhead?
Just put it down.
Just put it,
Face down, yeah, and then,
oh, okay, all right.
Then we'll go to the overhead here.
Okay,
wonder if we
your
can ex-
order March 6, 2019 was against Mr. Magis, Communication Director, DBI, for violation. On May 3rd, 2019, you sent email to all parties that for document to be considered, it must be received 5 working days before hearing. For inclusion into the agenda package, document must be received at 5 p.m. May 15, 2019. She sent her cover letter after 5 p.m. May 15 and stated that she would not send an email link until May 16, 2019 for her attachment, and claimed that she was, quote, unable to attach the file to this email as they are quite large, unquote. She did not produce anything on May 16, nor did she produce the quite large and redacted document as the order. This is not the first time she intentionally, willfully submit written material late or not submit the response record at all. For this case, the second hearing was February 6th, and she did not submit anything timely. Just before the hearing on February 4, she sent email with 6 batches attachment. She calculated that since no consequences, she continued to submit document late, and successful preventing me to have enough time to review her late filing before hearing. The file he submitted to you, the page 454 to 483, you can see 30 pages are unreadable because the size of letter are too small. Please do not support her calculated, willful, and wrongful acts. She did not comply with the request nor your order. If you do, she will continue above the law. In her cover letter, she claim that she can redact the public record because she could guess, then decide the address, mailing address, phone number, email address on the building permit application or Board of Appeals form, because she decided she need to protect one person, Mr. Craig Greenwood, the owner of 2650 High Street information. But she did not redact another member of public, Brincat, nor my private information on the same BOA forms. This required information on the city forms are public record. DBI's own record management let the tenants, the potential buyer or any member of public to review or obtain records that are without redaction for the public to find out what the owner of the property did to the property. The original permit application without redactions are permanent records and not to her to redact. And not anyone can obtain BOA file. BOA has his own director and informed me BOA has not redacted a single document. Mr. Matthews is not even a BOA's employee. Please educate the public, including me. First, can she redact the BOA's public record, which contains information required to be disclosed on the permit application? Mr. Matthews and DBI's record management are under the same DBI director. 2, does she has the authority to redact another department BOA's public record? 3, is she allowed to redact Mr. Greenwood's information on CD's form, not based on the law, but on Mr. Greenwood and his team claim that they have connection with DBI officials and can circumvent the code? 4, should you consider the late filing, redact the document, and 2 large files that she claimed that she would send but never did, the unreadable document she sent? 5, she imagines the willful misconduct be sent to Ethics Commission for a hearing and ruling. Please do not support her willful misconduct. Stay above. We, the taxpayer, should not continue to pay her over $142,000 for her salary, in addition to her benefit for her not to do her job, which is to produce a public record request. She has done the opposite. We better use the money to fund the desperately needed housing and homeless programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have no time to read this at all.
Okay, hold on to that. Do you happen to have those 4 or 5 points you made? Do you have that in written copy that you can give us?
This thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I scratched you a lot, but
Okay.
but you can.
Yeah,
want
let's.
to see it?
I'll come back to that because
I
that's
can collect it and mail it.
right. Okay.
I have a more than.
Okay. All right. Great. Okay. All right, Ms. Magis, you could apply. If you could approach, please. We can come back to that later. Yeah. Hold on one second. Our clerk is ready. Yeah. Okay. If you could respond.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Lily Magis from Department of Building Inspection. I manage our department's production of public
3
records
minutes.
as it relates to the Sunshine Ordinance. Following the March 6th Sunshine Task Force hearing, where there was a determination asking us to provide unredacted files to Ms. Sang, 4 emails, number 2, which we numbered, number 2, number 36, number 44, and number 55. They contained attachments which had redactions, which she mentioned basically had information which was her neighbor's. March 12th, we sent Ms. Sang the 4 emails with the respective attachments without any redactions. And you'll see that as your packet if you're looking at it. It says number A. You'll see that as we sent it on March 12th. It says, as requested by the Sunshine Task Force, we are sending you these documents. The tabs that you see there, which Ms. Sang also has, are the documents that were unredacted provided to Ms. Sang. Shortly after, the next day, Ms. Sang requested that we send her the 4 emails redacted because she said that she didn't receive the redacted files. So we sent it to her as well that day. The 4 emails, number 2, number 36, 44, and 55, redacted with attachments. And our email to her, which was last sent on March 6th, the day of the hearing, providing her those same documents that we reviewed at the Sunshine Task Force.
Let me just ask a quick question. So your lettering refers to those 4 or 5 emails in question?
Correct.
So A through E
Oh, I'm sorry. So the lettering refers to the emails that were sent. There were 5 emails that were sent, 4 emails, March 12, March 13, March 15, March 20, March 28. Each packet contains the 4 emails that she requested or a variation of that has number 2, number 36, number 44, number 55, either in redacted form or unredacted form, depending on what she requested. Per the Sunshine Task Force order on March 6th, you guys said to send her unredacted because we had previously sent her redacted files. And so if we're looking at all the files, we did send her over the time frame from March 12th to March 28th, a variation of the redacted or unredacted files. March 28th, we sent her a full packet. One of the things that Ms. Sang was having trouble with was opening the files. We kept opening it. She wasn't able to open it. We just condensed the attachments within each email as a PDF, and you'll see that as E. It's a pretty thick stack, and you'll see the tabs on there with multiple, you'll see redacted and unredacted files. So as you can see here, we've produced to Ms. Sang on 5 separate occasions redacted and unredacted files. For your consideration today, we were supposed to look at whether we produced the unredacted files, which we did.
Okay, but this is the first time you're giving it to her and us in written form like this, right?
Mi-
The first
As
time.
a packet,
Yeah, I mean, everything's been electronic till this point, is that right?
correct.
Which she's had some issues opening, but now she has it in hard copy. As-
Correct,
as
but
you-
her request has been for electronic form.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Oh, I also wanted to respond. I know she had said that we redacted based on, we called out the redactions. I provided in the cover letter
Yeah, I see that.
referencing the Good Government Guide because it did come up during the Sunshine Task Force. I wasn't going to address it at this time, but I provided it there based on the fact that we were provided guidance that that's basically what we redact for, which is private information in the interest of an individual. We did not redact her information along with a colleague of hers that she kept copying on all her emails.
Okay, but regardless, at this point, you've provided everything unredacted?
Yes.
All the attachments unredacted?
Correct.
Okay,
And we've also asked her if she wanted, she can come in. That's not really something that she wants to do. She likes them in electronic form, and we've attempted to respond to her, as you can see, 5 different times.
thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, it's before us. Well, I have to say, first off, in our electronic package, page 450, I had to blow it up to 250% just to be able to read it. So I don't know if that is representative, as Ms. Sang was saying about some of the material, but maybe that condensing function has made it small. But, you know, I'm pretty comfortable with the hard copies. Certainly look readable to me, just skimming through in the few minutes that we've had. Do we have the actual order from the last task force listing those particular emails?
This is the order.
I got it right here, okay.
Yeah, the orders were included in the packet.
Says,
Pretty general, though, isn't it? We
says
got,
to provide them unredacted, I believe.
yeah, I think we got to get better at listing, but at least they've broken it down for us by, you know, these 4 emails, and they've provided 5 different ways. Ms. Sang, could you approach? Second. Could you approach? So it looks like we're kind of past the point of whether they redacted rightly or wrongly. It looks to me, and this is just looking at it for a few minutes that I had in front of me, that they've sent you, you know, the 4 emails you had concerned with, the attachments. The printed copy looks readable. I agree the online copy looks pretty crunched. This looks readable. We could continue this pending your review of this.
Yeah, I
And-
would like to have the opportunity. You know that my complaint was filed last year. Every time she
I know
says
that.
that,
This has been
you
going
know,
on for a while.
every
I
time she
appreciate
said
that.
that she's getting $140,000 and salary plus for our taxpayers' money for a simple document. How many? I appreciate your time, okay, to come to every time I come to you, okay. It's just not reasonable. And then now she says that, you know, for the letter, she still defend herself. She have right to do that. That she have no right. Last time the discussion was, she even admits she was wrong. Now she bring it up on the record and says that she has right to do that. And this is her attitude. To me, it's wrongful, it's intentional. How can you produce a certain document for a few months, every time come to you as they produce it? When I ask her a question, she doesn't answer that directly, okay? She just say that whatever she want to say. And, you know, that's the situation. Yes, I would like to have the opportunity, and then thank you for asking. Yes.
Okay, all right. So I think you know, my gut here is to probably continue this pending your review of these documents.
Yeah.
To see if, you know, you've got finally what you need. And I would tell Ms. Magis that, you know, based on our last full task force meeting, you know, we don't follow the good government guide. You know, the Sunshine Law is above that. And I hope you've learned, you know, what you can and can't redact now. You can always refer to the city attorney for that advice, but hopefully the next Mrs. Sang that comes along is not going to have to go through this teeth pulling for the whole year to get the documents that they rightly deserve. Members, any other comments?
I would hope that we can dispense with this by the next meeting. So, I would hope that we would continue this till the next meeting,
I think that's a good idea.
because I
And-
don't want this to drag on.
Right,
So, Ms.
and-
Zhang, do you think you can? This committee meets every other month. So, do you think you'll have a chance to review everything by our next meeting? So, which would basically be sometime in July.
So
then-
if
but
you,
then-
is 30 days enough to, and then this meets every other month, the
Yeah.
OTC?
Yeah, I for one month, absolutely. You know, I
Okay.
I just get it now, and then
Right.
you know she
Yeah.
says that he would send it on the 16th, and it never happened.
I mean,
I
this-
just want to
this-
make sure that you have enough time to review everything before
Right.
we, yeah.
Alternatively, I mean, this has bounced around from committee to committee. We could continue this to the next maybe compliance, because
Yeah,
this really is a compliance
Yeah.
issue, the
Yeah,
way I see it.
I almost like that idea better, because it seems
Puts it back in the
fairly
right
simple,
place, yeah.
And it puts it back in the right place, and it might conclude the matter a month earlier.
Okay,
So,
all right. When is our next compliance?
I believe that's June 18th.
June 18th. Okay, so
that
June,
gives you almost a month, exactly a month, Ms. Zhang.
right,
to
so
review.
we'll, the chair of this committee, who is not me, I'm sitting in, I'm going to recommend to them that we continue this to that meeting, to June 18th. So if you could let our clerk know by, let's say, June 1st, June 7th, yes, I read everything, I've got what I need, I'm concluding this case, or no, I'm still missing this, that, and the other, then we'll hear it again, and we'll bring Ms. Magis back to.
I hope that you going through this kind of meeting for the documents, and then again and again, you have to give her some order. She cannot do that again and again. I mean, this is, you know, what the public suffer.
Well, thanks to your work, this is now on record.
Yeah.
So if anything like this happens after you, then, you know, the consequences will be even stronger. But
Right.
your work is appreciated by all
Thank
the
you.
people that follow you, you know, so.
Yeah.
And you've come a long way. I mean, we've been talking
Yeah.
for a couple of years now. You've,
Yeah, well, for the record, now all of a sudden, you know, it's a bunch of throw up, you know.
Yes.
If she can answer people, public's email directly, not fooling around, and then you ask her one, she just answer that, but it's not addressed directly to the questions we ask.
Yes,
So it's,
I understand.
you want my thing?
Yes, if you can give a copy of that to the clerk. And Ms. Magis, any last words from your, I want to give you a chance to respond since Ms. Sang talked.
I just want to respond in the allegation that we're not responding. I really want to stress that we're not trying to hide any documents. We have worked with Ms. Sang on multiple different requests, and we get daily requests of documents that are talking about different types of requests. They're not all the same. As you'll see in this packet, we responded to her 5 times within a 3-week period. That's in addition to other requests that she's had.
Right.
We are not trying to hide anything. I know she keeps alleging that, and we provided the documents that responded to her. We've tried to work with her, we meet with her, we email with her, we see her, and she's visited us. We're not trying to not produce anything, and the information that I provided you today, I hope that after reviewing it, you will see that we have provided the information that was requested at the Sunshine Task Force on March 6th, which was unredacted files, and redacted files as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So someone like to make a motion to continue this to the next CAC
Sure,
meeting?
I'll
I
move.
believe the motion will be referred to the Compliance and Amendments Committee to review the status of the order of determination. And may I suggest that we keep your copies of the documents passed out today so that we can bring it to that meeting for your review, so we don't have to reproduce the tabling and so forth.
Right, so we just make a motion to continue at this point?
Refer to the Compliance and Amendments Committee.
Okay,
Also move.
I'll second that.
all right. Any public comment on that motion? Seeing no public comment, let's take a roll.
Member Hensy?
Aye.
Member Hensy, aye. Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Chair Hyland?
Aye.
Chair Hyland, aye. Motion passes.
I'd just like to let all the parties know that that meeting is tentatively scheduled for June 18th, and you will receive notice via email.
And Cheryl, just make sure to reach out to Ms. Sang to see if she wants us to have that for her. Well, that, or if she wants to conclude it beforehand, you know, if she's happy with what she got.
We can
Cheryl.
take care of that outside of
Yeah,
the meeting.
yeah, I'm saying several weeks from now, when she has a chance to review the documents. Just make a note to yourself, yeah. Yes, please do.
No, we're gonna give them back. We don't have to, you can't redo this.
Redo them.
One for each. Yeah, remember next time.
It's not something you want to recreate.
No.
That one. We will make a copy and we'll email it back to you. Thank you.
Okay,
Next item.
please.
Item number 7, file number 19031, complaint filed by Mark Sullivan against Chris Corgus and the Office of Economic and Workforce Development for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.1 A, C, D, G by failing to allow access to records, 67.5 by failing to require that meetings be open in public, and 67.32 by failing the provision of services to other agencies.
Okay, we're hearing this is a complaint committee, basically, right? This is the first time we've heard
Yes, this is the
Okay.
first, yes, this item and then item number 8 are both new.
Okay, great. Are both parties here? Yes? Okay. Do you want to deal with the jurisdiction first? Or we can take it together?
I think they're contesting jurisdiction on this one, so maybe we just hear it all together.
Okay. All right.
Do you want me to read number 8 as well?
They're against two different departments.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's keep them separate. We have time.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Could the petitioner please approach? You have 3 minutes, yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Hello, my name's Mark Sullivan. Good afternoon. I'm not going to be able to cover everything I think you should know about jurisdiction in 5 minutes because of the time limit. I'm going to do some leaping. My response to the respondent's claim that the MDGBD-SC is an informal group. It is the actions and documentation and facts that matter, not the choice of how the city labels the committee. To me, how city employees and the MDGDB-FC had framed their position does not line up with what they are doing, giving us a very matrix reality. How many informal groups have a city employee and supervisor conferring on the makeup of the group, setting the agenda, and a supervisor coming to a meeting with the goals of an ordinance passed by the BOS? I think the city's and the contractors' actions as like they are driving a all-paid cruise ship to a GBD port, and on the boat, the formation committee is making some decisions. Many of the decisions that the formation committee make are formulaic and narrow to the process, and even if the city employees and contractors are not voting, they are heavily involved in the decision making, as Mr. Corgus' MAP meeting agenda email shows. Much of this new evidence came from a PR request that arrived the late afternoon, the day before my March 6th full SOTF hearing on the Mission Dolores GDB videotaping. This was 26 days from the request date of February 11th. Some of the new documents were obtained with a further PR request. Page 30 shows Mr. Corgus and Mr. Goldberg of DPW discussing the agenda for March 26, 2018 meeting of the GDB. The email shows a draft agenda attached, of which I asked both OEW and DPW custodians of records for this attachment, and they could not find the document. Ms. Thompson, in her filed response, claims that this is a social media icon. This is another strange shift of framing in that the email subject line names the attachment as the subject, and Mr. Goldberg of DPW says, edits attached, time to review, set a schedule, tomorrow or Thursday. And then it says draft agenda, Dolores Park, 3/26/18.docx. It is an attachment and not a social media icon. On PDF pages 25 and 24 is an email exchange dated February 13 that shows Mr. Corgus conferring with the then Supervisor Jeff Sheehy about the composition of the GDB, and they used the GDB in this email. Ideally, I would like to see at least 2 to 4 more people join, not including Rec and Park, which will be as well. Do you have any concerns with this list or anyone you would like to see added? I will try to convene a meeting next week and will inform you of the date and time and location. To which Supervisor Sheehy responds that he would like to see more gender balance and suggest someone. The term GDB used in this email and in prior dated emails submitted in the records. Page 20, the document appears to show that Mr. Supervisor Sheehy planned to attend a February 26th meeting of the Park Dolores GDB arranged by Mr. Corgus. As he replies, thanks, Chris, adding clothing for scheduling purposes. Page 26 and 27, there are 2 documents submitted that show people consulting with Mr. Chris Corgus on whether to add certain people to the GBD steering committee or formation committee. One is Sam Monahan, a member of the committee, and the other is a GBD executive director of Place Labs, Brooke Ray Riviera, whose organization was about to receive a contract from the city to help Mission Dolores GDB form a GDB. She asked Mr. Corgus if she should add a member of her board who lives in the proposed area to the committee. One of the more important aspects of my complaint is the Sunshine Ordinance should cover all contractors, grantees, if written with what appears to be in a standard city contract. Starting on page 36, the city has a very detailed contract with SF Park Alliance to bring the MDGDB to port. Like probably all contracts the city enters into with the contractor, the city retains the right of ownership to all documents, services, and products. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody in support of the petitioner? Approach. Victor, is it 3 minutes?
Mr.
Chairman.
Same amount of time that you provided to the petitioner.
Understood. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for this opportunity.
Sorry, my apologies. You're speaking in support of the petitioner?
Yes.
I'm speaking in support of
That
the
is 3
gentleman who
minutes.
just went before me.
Right, so you have 3 minutes, sir.
I'll be as brief as I can. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is John Hooper. I was involved in defeating a city-funded and staffed attempt to impose a green benefit district in the Haight-Ashbury district last year. I'm up here today to reinforce the message that Mark Sullivan has conveyed to you, that green benefit districts are a city-instigated and funded effort and must not be allowed to hide in the shadows behind so-called informal neighborhood group meetings. City government is intimately involved in every step of promoting green benefit districts, providing full-time staff support at the Department of Public Works, providing part-time staff support at OEWD, providing extensive grant writing to proxies which carry out the city's intent, actually selecting members of green benefit district formation committees, as happened in the case of the Mission Dolores activity that's now going on, setting formation committee agendas and meeting dates. I have documented the city's extensive role in 2 letters to the city attorney, which I'll submit to you after I finish speaking today. City agencies are also involved in providing misleading information to the public concerning green benefit districts over which there is virtually no government oversight. It is critical that the light of day be directed to this shameful misuse of taxpayer dollars, which is almost entirely unregulated. The Sunshine Ordinance Task Force has a critical role to play in protecting the public's rights to understand and fight this convoluted process. The mission of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force will be subverted if the city is allowed to avoid public scrutiny by working through proxies such as the Mission Dolores Green Benefit District Formation Committee and the San Francisco Parks Alliance. Please ensure that all aspects of green benefit districts are subject to full public scrutiny. I'd be happy to pursue this matter before the full task force if you feel that is appropriate. And for the record, I will submit my most recent Public Records Act request to OEWD, which has not been fully responded to, my April 3rd letter to the City Attorney's Office, and my April 17th letter to the City Attorney's Office. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
And for the record,
You can give that to our clerk. Great, thank you. Anybody else in support of the petitioner? Okay, if the respondent could approach, please. Oh,
It's his statement, right? Okay.
Chris Corgus is listed. Is he here?
Mr. Corgus is currently at the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, all right. And you are?
I am Mary Amazuko Thompson, and I am the custodian of records for the Office of Economic and Workforce Development. And Commissioners, I'd first like to begin by saying a couple of things. I have been the custodian of records here at the City and County of San Francisco for 15 years. This is only the second time in my entire career I've been taken to the task force. I pride myself on transparency and providing people records. If Mr. Hooper's response is inconclusive, he has not circled back to me in any form of communication to state that. So I'd like to speak to that. First of all, I do want to explain that as members of your department know, I'm going to put this here. Can you see that? I guess it's more important that you see that. When we PDF documents, What does happen is in our email signatures, there are images that are for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And when you PDF them, it says that there are documents attached. But in fact, they are icons or images that can be found in our signatures. So I do want to address that piece. First piece I want to address is that the Green Benefits District are informal groups that meet informally. Therefore, they're not subject to the Brown Act, and they do not go through the same process. The Green Benefits Districts that Chris Corgus facilitated were very informal, were driven by the community, by the neighbors, by the neighborhood. The neighbors and the neighborhood, in fact, went to the supervisor and asked the supervisor if he would provide OEWD with funding to begin an exploratory process. And that is what you do see. The documents that we've responded to and given everyone is just an exploratory process. It's not a formal, finalized process. As you can tell, some of these have not come to fruition. And it's not our responsibility to do that. Our responsibility is simply to help provide directions with what can and cannot be done with a green benefits district, what rules they do should they elect to finalize and formalize, like a community benefits district, what rules they have to abide by. All the documents that both Sunshine requests speak to that. They speak to the fact that these are informal organizations and that people in those emails are having an exchange in terms of who should be invited, who has an area of expertise, who would be a stakeholder. So I find that none of these facts are substantiated in either of the claims. I think that's it. But I also do, as you can see.
Yes, I can see that. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in support of the respondents? Seeing nobody, the matter is before us. And just to remind the committee, we did indeed have a similar case where we voted on the jurisdiction, and it failed narrowly, 5-4. There was a member absent. There was also some discussion as to whether that was a substantive vote or procedural. I'm not sure if we ever got to the bottom of that. It was definitely an interesting item, digging from my memory, if you guys remember that. I think our vote at that time was jurisdiction over...
Yeah, I think that was over the
committee?
The informal group that they're talking about, where this one looks like it's directed at the city department.
Right.
Which, I guess, hearing both sides here, I'm a little confused about what the petitioner has not received from this particular city department. It seems to be mixing some of those issues up, the one that you talked about,
Right.
versus specifically what they haven't received from this department.
Right. Well, maybe that's a good question to start with.
So I guess that's the question I would have for the petitioner would be, what specific documents he's still looking for?
Mr. Sullivan, if you could approach. Thanks.
Yeah. So I would be curious about which specific documents. I was a little unclear from the Office of Economic and Workforce Development specifically.
Okay.
You still haven't received.
Chris Corgus, in my complaint, which I don't have in front of me, what I wrote, is that I asked him for specific documents from 2 meetings that Chris Corgus organized, one of them which Jeff Sheehy attended. And I've also asked for the draft agenda meeting that Chris Corgus and Mr. Jonathan Goldberg had talked about. It was an attachment, and it is in the subject line. It's on page 30 of your the PDF.
Right. So is that the one that says draft agenda Dolores Park 3-26-18.docx?
Yes.
So you have not received that.
I have not received that, and I have asked, and I asked for basically all documents that were shared within those meetings that Chris Corgus organized, and the one that Jeff that Supervisor Jeff Shee showed up to, apparently.
Okay, I think we got it. So basically, last go-around, I think we decided that we were trying to get these documents out of the committee, and we decided we didn't have that jurisdiction.
So go to the department, right?
But the same documents, if either possession or created by Mr. Corgus, I think would fall under jurisdiction, and we could go down that path. I think
Right.
I think that's where we're at.
So yeah, I guess for the respondent, the question I would have is I do see this on, and it's actually marked page 674 in our packet, at the bottom of that. And it's, looks like it's an email quoted from Jonathan Goldberg, and it says, edits attached, time to review / set a schedule tomorrow or Thursday. Then it looks like the attachment was draft agenda, Dolores Park 32618.docx. So I would assume that someone would have
We have given everybody, so I also want to clarify, and I want to speak to something. There have been 6 sunshine requests, very well coordinated with 6 individuals for the same documents, and we have given all 6 individuals the same documents. We have never withheld any of the documents. We do not have that document. And so I believe there are other individuals here to respond to that who also don't have that document. So I don't know, we would not withhold. After giving everybody approximately 328 documents, why we would withhold one. And so I guess my answer to you is I don't have that document. And if I did have that document, I certainly would have given it, because it would be easier to transmit one document like that than to be here today.
Okay, and what would Chris Corgus say? He doesn't have this document?
He does not have the document either.
Okay, but it sounds like he was integral to setting up or creating this document, but based on what I'm reading here.
Right, it looks like to me, it looks like it was an email that was sent from Jonathan Goldberg to Chris Corgus with this attachment to it.
To Jim Chappell and Chris Corgus, right?
Yes.
I believe that perhaps the other person, Jonathan, is here, who perhaps could answer to that.
Sure.
Chris is not. So also, I want to clarify how I do sunshine requests. I actually work with our Department of Technology. I don't necessarily just ask the individual employee. I work with our Department of Technology to do a search of the individual's email. I know that that's not done in every department, but I want to clarify that I am one person for 144 employees, and I wear many hats at OEWD. So this makes this process easier for me, and also to pull and redact. It actually makes it quicker to pull and redact. So if the document isn't there, I honestly, sincerely do not have that document.
Well, I'm glad to hear we have an experienced custodian of public records in front of us. That's not always the case, so I'm glad to hear that.
It's just, I guess I wish I could tell every custodian of records it's the easiest way to do it, because you can go to your individual technology department and ask them to search under key terms,
Right.
and it's easier to pull, and it's easier to PDF and respond.
It's more complete, yeah.
So there you
Okay.
go.
All right, so maybe we hear from Mr. Chappell, is it? Or you said someone else was here? Oh, Jonathan, I'm sorry, Jonathan.
Into the microphone, please.
Hold on one
Right.
second. He's, so,
He would be the person who sent the agenda.
okay, well, if you'd like to speak on this, now's the time. We can hear from you again later. And I think you were before us. Yeah, please approach. You were before us the last time at the full task force, right?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So this was a file that was a draft file that had no longer any significant value. Our custodian of records recently, within perhaps the past 6 months, wanted to ensure that the department was in compliance with our records retention policy. These files had no value to, and there was no rationale for the department to hold on to them. So, as part of the ritual sort of cleaning out, I did not retain that record.
Okay, but the you didn't retain it, but your IT department should be able to retrieve it if necessary. No, is that the IT department there? No. Oh, okay.
Yes, so the email that it was attached to is also, I mean, in my mind, I'm imagining that the file might reside on some computer or some network drive, and then it looks like at some point it was sent from one department to another. And so it sounds like the file both on your computer as well as the email that it was attached to, they were both subsequently deleted?
I can't speak on behalf of what records OEWD pulled from.
Right.
from
It looks
Chris
like it
Corgus.
looks like they received it, and that you were the one who sent it. So, from your outbox, for example, that's no longer there.
I habitually sort of clean out my sort of outbox. We have it gets when you accrue a number of years of service in the city, it does tend to slow down your Outlook operations. You know, when you have an email cache that is, you know, several gigabytes large, and you're operating on a sort of remote, either a remote server or a localized server.
No, I understand. I was just clarifying that both the email and the file itself looks like they were both deleted, is what I'm hearing.
I
least
didn't
on
have
your
that.
end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the file.
Right.
But if you had your laptop here, you could pop it open and look in your sent folder and see if it's still there, or if it was deleted along with other ones.
There was no rationale to sort of retain the
Okay,
record.
so you're saying that section of the sent folder has since been deleted. That's okay. That's what we're hearing. Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
the question I had.
So, thoughts, Member Yankee?
Well, it sounds like the city departments may have, well, it looks like this one is, in particular has been deleted. I'm not sure if there's other specific files. I didn't see any other ones specifically in this packet.
It looks like there's pretty clear evidence that this one's gone.
This one's gone, right.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure which other ones may exist, but it sounds like they probably don't based on what I'm hearing. So I'm not sure that they're
Well,
already-
I guess we can go to the other department and see if they still have it in their inbox, right?
Right,
That's the next
right,
step.
right. So it would be, so in this case, it looks like, right, so actually, this is.
And is that the subject of our next?
Actually, that's this one. So it looks like the recipient was Chris Corgus, who's actually the subject of this one.
Okay.
It's like Mr.
And the custodian of records is saying that she doesn't have that
Right,
file.
right. So
So it
it
looks
doesn't
like
sound
it's-
like it's either on the person who sent it or the person who received it.
Okay.
So,
It's interesting, we've come across many cases where there may not be a file, but we know there was a file, and it's not on both ends. That's the first time that I've come across that, I have to say, after 8 years in the Sunshine Task Force, but anyway. All right. Mr. Sullivan, could you approach again?
Can I say something?
Yeah, you can respond, go ahead.
Yeah, a draft agenda document also says that there's probably a final. And part of this is, I don't know what happened at these meetings. I don't know what documents exist, so I can only ask for them. It looks like they set up agendas for these meetings.
Did you also ask for the final agenda?
Yeah, I asked for any documents related. My PR request was
Okay.
any documents, materials that were handed out,
So-
agenda minutes,
Okay, so
anything
of those two-
meetings.
So, assuming this document is gone and not retrievable, did you receive the final version of that agenda?
No, I did not. I didn't receive any documents. There, both
I see.
OEW came back with no responsive documents,
Okay.
which I suspect might be right. But then there's a problem of document retention.
There is. Okay. Hold on, one second. So, you may approach, and if so, please speak into the microphone. Yes, okay.
All right, thank
All
you
right.
so much.
So let's just summarize what we got here. So we have, we're down to 2 documents, right? on 2 different dates that we're looking for? One that we know of. Okay. So to speak to that, go ahead.
So let's clarify. He's asking for something that is labeled draft agenda.
Right.
We do not have that document.
Okay.
If there had been a final agenda, there would have been an email and a document, but there perhaps was, again, as an informal body, this group is facilitated by Chris, but there may not, in fact, have been a final agenda. There may not have been a meeting, for all we know.
Did you do a search for a final agenda?
Yes. So he has every single document. So he has every single document for every single green benefits district, because I would like to explain that his request was voluminous, and there are several
Ongoing.
There are several communities here in San Francisco, Mission Dolores, to name one, but there are Buena Vista. There are communities here that are exploring ways in which they can have a greater say in what happens in their community and what happens in their parks. And our job is only to guide them through the process until they choose to become a formal body. And then that's a whole other process. He has every single Mr. Sullivan has every document from Chris Corgus with the words Green Benefit District, GBD, Benefit District. We did a very robust search. If the documents existed, I would have produced them.
Okay, so just to cut you off there,
Sure.
Marianne. So the 2 documents dated 2/26 and 3/12 are no longer. We're establishing that. And then maybe I'll switch gears and ask you about your document retention policies. So it sounds like some of your individuals or at DPW delete certain files on their laptops for efficiency. But as custodian of records, what is your?
So we have we have a policy, and the policy is 2 years. We are to hold documents for 2 years. Some of our projects, as you will soon hear, when it comes to emails, so documents are one thing, right? Those are EIRs, proposals, bids, etc. We retain those for 2 years. If a project is no longer ongoing, it may stay within the 2 years, or an employee may remove the emails. So if it's not active or ongoing, meaning, as does sometimes happen at OEWD, like we will go out with an RFP. We will keep those main documents, but we may not necessarily keep the emails if the RFP perhaps for some reason didn't come to fruition, or halfway through we ended the RFP, or if we didn't produce the RFP. So those documents sometimes don't stay with us. In our situation, I do really want to emphasize that Chris has retained all the documents he has. We simply can't understand why we can't find that particular document, and why we've produced hundreds of emails and hundreds of documents for this particular one, and we don't know why that one doesn't exist.
So you said you retain emails until the project or whatever is closed? Is the
Correct.
Dolores?
So it's 2 years.
Dolores?
So
issue
it
closed?
did not come to fruition.
So it's closed?
Correct.
Okay.
But not with our office. And I think that also gets into it. So there are multiple offices that work on a project like this, like a green benefits district, like a community benefits district. OEWD is the facilitator of it. The funding comes from one direction, and so forth. So
what would be the start date and end date for your involvement, roughly? I mean, are we talking
for this green benefit
16
district,
to 18? I'm trying to understand why, if you guys are really sticking to your 2-year term or not.
we've retained all those documents. We just don't know why that particular one is not in existence.
So, okay. Are we talking about the draft agenda still?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that one looks like it was obviously less than 2 years old. It was
Yeah.
March of
Right.
2018, so that would be what,
Yeah.
14 months?
And what is the second document?
I think he was saying if there was a final. I mean, there's no,
Final. Okay. Okay. Okay.
There's two other meetings that happened, and one of them, Jeff Sheehy
Right.
showed up to, and it's surprising that there's nothing else. I mean, there's nothing from these meetings. And they were convened by an employee of the city.
Right.
And they just, I don't know. you
Yeah.
know. And being some, because the problem here is that.
Let me ask you this. When you sunshine the other green benefit districts, were you able to get agendas for those, like Buena Vista and other ones? Were there documents responsive to those agendas?
No, I mean, it's been an ongoing
So
thing.
it sounds to me like it's because they don't,
Sometimes. and
because
some-
it's quasi, maybe they're kind of, litmus testing it, and therefore it's not deemed to be worthy of retention. I'm just kind of,
Well, so they work with a contractor eventually.
Eventually, right.
And that contractor started on April 1st with this GDP.
okay.
So it really comes to when, when they're an actual committee, and they start calling themselves a committee, right, in these emails.
Yeah.
Or when, they're just an informal group just sitting around and talking.
Yeah.
But they started talking, actually, I don't know what it is, but Park and Rec, there's an email in there where that's the start of this MDGDB, where a person for Park and Rec, Beverly Ming, suggests that, hey, I have this person here. She's writing Chris Corgus. I'm thinking, let's try and push them towards the GDP.
Okay. Thank you. Members, thoughts? You want to hear rebuttals?
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, this is not actually a hearing
We
on the
don't need to
matter,
do
so
that.
we don't
Okay.
do rebuttals.
Okay.
All you're trying to determine is if you have enough information to send to the full task force.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Clerk.
I mean, my opinion would be that the records, if they exist, would be public, obviously. They were with city departments. I mean, it's disappointing that it sounds like none of them have them, but I mean, I don't think there's a jurisdictional issue
No.
in this case, because I think it's quite obvious that these documents were, sent
Yeah.
between city departments.
Agreed on that.
Yep.
And there's reference to these documents. you
Right,
know,
so we knew at some point they
They
existed.
existed,
Yeah.
and it's within the 2-year window.
Right, so it's, to me, it's concerning that they're gone.
It's pretty black and white.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but that's not our purpose here to do that, so,
yeah,
at
that's,
this committee
right.
level.
but there's enough meat here to send it
Yeah.
on.
I
to
think
the-
so,
to
yeah.
the-
No,
I think
I
we've-
definitely think so.
Okay.
I would agree.
All right. So if someone would like to make a motion to, we can just send it as is. I think we should probably try and put some notes around it so that the full task force can kind of get up to speed quickly. But I think we can note that jurisdiction has not been contested by either party or by the party, so they can read into that.
Mhm, right.
And then
Yeah, I think as part of the motion, we can move that.
Right,
that we'd
and that it appears these documents once existed within the
Yeah.
2-year window, no longer do, and that could be our summary
I
going
agree.
forward. That's probably enough to,
I believe the motion would be to find that the task force has jurisdiction, the records, if they existed, are public records, and to refer the matter to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force for hearing.
Sure, I would move that.
very good.
I'll second.
Okay.
To clarify.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so in all the emails, what you are referring to is one that is asking, that lists a draft document. We don't know that there was ever so pushing this forward, I think it should only be about that one draft document. We don't know that there was ever a final document. And what you're saying here is you're pushing this forward, saying that there's 2 documents that are in fact missing.
I don't think we're specifically saying there's 2,
Okay.
but just the realm of these types of documents, had they been sent between the 2, I think
Got
that's
it.
something the full task force would probably want to discuss.
Okay,
And
perfect.
what we'd like to do is, compel you guys to find it and produce it. But in the absence of that, we have to at least record
Sure, absolutely, I
that-
agree.
that it existed and no longer does, why, and then that'll go down its natural path.
Perfect, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. And if somehow it shows up between now and then, please let us know.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Right. Okay, so that's the motion on the floor. Any public comment on that motion? Seeing none,
Call the roll.
please.
Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Member Hensy?
Aye.
Member Hensy, aye. Chair Hyland?
Aye.
Chair Hyland, aye. The motion passes. Call the next item.
Please.
When that matter is scheduled before the full task force, all parties will be informed via the same method.
Item number 8, file number 19032, complaint filed by Mark Sullivan against Jonathan Goldberg, David Steinberg, and Public Works for allegedly violating Administrative Code, Section 6721A, C, D, G, by failing to respond to a public records in a timely and/or complete manner, 67.5, requiring that meetings be open and public, and 6732, provision of services to other agencies.
All right, all parties are here. Okay, respondent, if you could approach, please, or rather petitioner.
Mark Sullivan, hello again. In the respondent's response, they claim DPW has not entered into any contract with SF Park Alliance, and the contract is with OEWD. If DPW had the contract, Mr. Goldberg would be obligated to obtain the additional responsive records. So what they are saying is that because DPW did not issue the contract, they have no obligation to get the records of meetings he organized or participated in. It is important to note that the contract ownership rights are to the city and not to a specific department. The city is the term used throughout the contract. Example, in 6.8, ownership of results, agreement or the implementation of the grant plan or service or the services to be performed under this agreement shall become the property of and be promptly transmitted to city. The 2 MDG contracts have been through OEWD. The current contract of about $157,000, $25,000 comes from OEWD, and $32,000 comes from $3,200,000. Comes from DPW. Prior to this contract, DPW had contracts for $120,000 for the Inner Sunset GDB. DPW has a green benefit manager. It is a shell game when the contract comes from OEWD, but the bulk of the money comes from DPW. They have the green benefit manager and regularly interact with the GBD formation committee, and they have no claim of obligation. They continue to distort with distortion in their response by citing PR request I made April 9th, 2018 for any contracts or agreements with Place Lab. In April 9th, 2018, I didn't even know the MDGDB existed, nor did most people not on the inside. I also did not know that Place Lab was a DBA of Build Public. Build Public was used on the DPW contracts for the Inner Sunset GDB, the only GDB I knew at the time. The Sunshine Ordinance takes into account that a requester may not know the exact particulars of a request. DPW did not produce contracts because I used the DBA name in my request, which should be a violation of Sunshine. DPW had issued 2 contracts to Build Public at the time. Given the complaints did not given my complaint did not name a contract with Place Lab solely, but with SF Park Alliance, I do wonder if the only reason for them submitting this PR request is to reveal my personal information. Next request says personal data is only visible to the staff, but may be released in response to a public record request. This is not that. So part of what we're doing here is also, these formation committees wouldn't exist without the city help and without the ordinance 14-14. And in order for the green benefit districts to exist, you must have a formation committee. So they are created essentially by an ordinance. On, I don't know what page it is, in an email where Mr. Goldberg advises the GBD grant writer and a GBD consultant to omit green from Green Benefit District and the associated acronyms in a grant application to OEW, the page, the grant writer writes, I changed some of the language from what I sent to Jonathan based on not wanting to identify the project as a Green Benefit District, since OEWD does not seem to fund those. This turns out to be false. This document shows some of the deception going on and the willingness to deceive. I believe the documents submitted show Mr. Goldberg has been more than an observer and only attending MDGDB meetings to answer questions. On the email October 29th, 2018, Mr. Goldberg set up a conference call that states the purpose of the discussing the survey. It is unclear what the conference call system he is using, the city. This document came from OEWD PR request and did not show up in the DPW PR request, even though Mr. Goldberg originated the email. Mr. Goldberg was also an organizer of Mission Dolores GDB meetings on 5 separate dates. These 6 meetings, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody in support of the petitioner?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. In item 7, you heard that, I'm sorry. My name is John Hooper. In item 7, you heard that you needn't exert jurisdiction because this is just a bunch of neighbors gathering informally. These are informal neighbors gathering informally with all their meetings paid for, staffed by the city, their mailings paid for the city, the current petition going on paid for the city. In item number 8, we're talking about proxies doing the city's work. That is the San Francisco Parks Alliance doing the city's work. But in the explicit terms of the contract, be it with DPW or OEWD, whatever is produced under those contracts is the property of the city of San Francisco. It's not a shell game between DPW and OEWD. This is the property of the city of San Francisco. Everything that's produced, every letter that's produced, every agenda that's produced, and this is clearly within your jurisdiction. I don't think you should be stymied by one department saying it doesn't have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in support of the petitioner?
Hi, Rick Carell. I live on Cumberland Street, right in the middle of this proposed GBD. I think what you're seeing here, there was an argument in the previous session about, 1 document, 2 documents. I think what you're seeing is this whole effort to hide the ball. And maybe we could get those documents from Place Lab, AKA SF Parks Alliance. All that work product is owned by the city. I think Mr. Hooper made a request for documents from those organizations, and he was basically told to see ya. And what you're seeing is that those are property of the city. Those documents are city documents. And one last thing is that, so this does have an impact. So not only are these not informal groups, they're organized by city employees. The result is that this is going to increase my taxes, all right? So all of us will be assessed probably $200 a year for the benefit of this nonprofit organization that will be created. So there is an economic consequence to all of us neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in support of the petitioner? Would the respondent please approach?
Hi. Oh, sorry. Hi, my name is David Steinberg. I'm custodian of records for San Francisco Public Works.
Okay.
So in my response, you can see we've received now a total of 33 different records requests from Mr. Sullivan and 2 of his associates regarding green benefit districts. We've turned over thousands and thousands of pages of records. The requests that he specifically is referencing in this complaint, on March 20th, he submitted 6 requests asking for a list of people who attended, agenda, minutes, and transcripts, and other things regarding all these meetings. So I contacted Jonathan Goldberg, who's the Green Benefits Program Manager for Public Works, and I basically said, given the fact that we've turned over basically everything related to green benefit districts, because they came in different ways. Some of them came in, I want everything for this year. I want everything, different time periods. I said, I can't imagine that we still have anything else, but, please double check and let me know. Like OEWD, I usually do an IT search for records. What I found was that there were a number of items that he was asking for that were already released to Mr. Hooper, who just spoke, as part of his request, which is, next request is 19517. For that request, I released 233 pages of documents. Interesting to note that I went through that request again, and at least 3 of the items that were released on those days related specifically to the meetings that were listed in Mr. Sullivan's request, and they tended to be little snazzier ones, like a PowerPoint demonstration with an agenda and slides and community meetings and stuff. But as I said, as was pointed out, our policy is we've revamped our record retention policy. The Ethics Commission approved it last year, and I've been working with different people in our department to educate our department. One thing that's very clear in the policy is that basically you can't rely on Outlook as, if you have to retain a record, you can't rely on Outlook. You have to take it out of Outlook, put it somewhere else. Leaving it in Outlook does not constitute properly retaining that record. So we've been doing an education campaign. Some of our other bureaus, if there's a protest letter, you can't leave it in Outlook. They take it out of Outlook, they put it in a file, it's noted, that's how you find it. Emails, on the other hand, if they're not substantive, if they're not related, if they're not considered, if the substance of the email is not considered a record and something that has to be retained, there's no obligation to maintain our emails. We don't have a 2-year period. We don't have anything. You can delete it the next day. We have I did have a little FAQ that says, what do I do about emails? Short answer, if the content is considered a record, you must retain it as required by our policy and schedule. Saving the email in Outlook does not qualify. You must create a hard or electronic copy and store it outside of Outlook. Our record retention policy defines transitory information as short-term records that are not covered by any other record types. Examples include reference materials and notes, out-of-office replies, routine system messages, and log files and correspondence and/or email with no ongoing business value. Transitory records should be disposed of promptly. As Marianne was saying, we do have a problem with email because when you get to a certain size of the PSD file, it starts corrupting and you can't find things. So we've been encouraging people to take things that you need that are substantive and put them elsewhere and start deleting your emails. I've been spending time the last month getting rid of lots of things in my sent folder, including from my second day on the job, which is when I got my email. Things that need to be kept have to be kept outside of Outlook. Specific to his request, we didn't have any additional items that weren't already turned over in Mr. Hooper's request, which he obviously had access to because that's where he got some of that stuff.
Okay. Anybody else in support of the respondent? And stay there 1 second. I have a quick question for you. Just to follow up, I do see in our packet that there's some effort that you made to try and track down this contract with this outside agency. And it looks like, was there something responsive to that or not?
No, Mr. Sullivan submitted 2 records requests, 18978, which I attached. He asked for any contracts or agreements with Place Lab SF or Place Lab, and then the same day, April 9th, 2018, 18979, he also asked for any contract or agreements with Build Public, and I believe that those were different names that they went by at the time. Honestly, I don't. He never asked for Parks Alliance, and I was unaware that those were the same thing. To be honest with you.
Okay. I mean, there is a clause 6720C that if you're claiming that, you guys don't retain this record, but you know another department that does, that you're obligated to lead them to that person and help them, retrieve that document. So that was a path I was going to go down. But it sounds like, just looking at page 858 and 59 in our packet, you're sending, email to Una Williams asking her to look into it. She's coming back saying it's not there. But now that you know that entity is the same one, do you have any documents responsive to that original request?
I don't believe we do, because as I said, basically anything related to Green Benefits District has already been disclosed to everyone. As I wrote on the response, the contract was awarded by OEWD. I know he said it's the city, but it wasn't a Public Works contract. It was an OEWD contract. I mean, if you look in his submission, he puts there's a copy of the contract in there, and it has definitions. The agency or I believe it says agency, means Office of Economic Workforce Development. It's not our contract, so we don't have access to those things. I know his response or his complaint, also talked about the idea that this is not a informal group of people. It's a government body or government created body, but this is just the city attorney's memorandum here says
we're kind of past that.
Yeah.
We're just saying, do you have the documents or can you get the documents? And you're saying
I've turned over everything possibly related to GBDs.
Did that contract ever pass through your servers or your network? Do you think?
I suspect it probably. I believe Jonathan probably did, and we probably turned it over before.
Yeah, if you could approach. Yeah.
Place Lab doing business, or Build Public doing business as Place Lab, was in the process of dissolving their nonprofit. They were in the process of dissolving their contracts with the city and renegotiating those contracts with various city agencies, including OEWD. I was not privy to the moment that the executive director of the Parks Alliance had re-signed their contract with OEWD. I was aware that that process needed to take place to sort of ensure there was a continuity with the project, but I was not aware of the exact moment in time that that document was available.
Okay. So it seems like this document's changing name and shape. So, Mr. Sullivan, if you could approach for a second. Thank you, gentlemen. Can you speak to what they just said?
Yeah, first of all, the April 9th, my PR request for that really has nothing to do with this complaint.
Okay.
It's just confusion,
Right.
And what I'm saying is that they know about the agreement. DPW financed most of that agreement. I have, let's see. Oh, here we go.
And do you have a page number that corresponds to our packet? by any chance?
No, because I thought I had the page numbers, but your page numbers
Yeah,
and my
different.
page numbers don't correspond for whatever reason.
Do you know what page numbers of yours it looks like? Probably are. If you start at 1, I think you kind of find it.
Okay, what do we want the contract page number?
Yes.
Okay, starting at page 36. And then, does that make sense?
What's the title? Give us a second here.
Am I at, let's see, looks like there's some type of 795 perhaps? Some type of Parks Alliance with Buena Vista and Dolores Park. And then it goes from
Yeah.
contract summary.
What do you see at the top of your page, Mr. Sullivan? What's
And the actual agreement looks like it starts 797.
grant agreement between City and County of SF and San Francisco Parks Alliance? That's the top of the page. Is that right? Is that
That's
right?
correct,
Okay,
yeah.
good. All right. 797.
So you guys use the bottom number?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Next future.
So in that one, it says agency shall mean Office of Economic and Workforce Development, it looks like.
Yeah, that's what's referred into the contract, but the contract is actually with the city. The city is used throughout the contract, not OEWD or agency. In other words, you know, if DPW has roads and they maintain them, they don't own the roads. The city owns them. And any results from the
Now,
contract.
it looks like on page, how did you obtain this particular document? Where did it come from, the grant agreement? Where did you ultimately get it from? Did it come from DPW, or did you get it from?
I got it from OEWD, but there's also, you know, it came from DPW too, because they looked at it. There's emails that show correspondence.
I mean, it sounds like they've both kind of given you everything they have.
Yeah, well, the thing is, okay, so they're having committees where Jonathan's organizing these formation committees, and they're underneath the contract of the city, all the meetings that I asked for. And I can see that this committee has a Google Drive, and they keep things, they have minutes, they make decisions like maps, how much the weighted vote of every individual is. And my interest is in transparency, democracy, and that, you know, people's votes equal one.
That's
equals
why you're
one and stuff.
referencing the contracts. You're saying, well, if they're under the umbrella of the contract, which they
Then all the, everything,
All the
and
work
I think
product.
even the formation committee is a product of those contracts.
Right.
In other words, they would never get the contract, you know, some group would have to be part of it. And so the city should own all those records, and especially if an employee of the city is organizing these meetings and saying, hey, you know, let's talk about the survey results, if there are any minutes or anything like that, all that survey results, everything should be public. Even the raw survey data.
Okay. That's really the crux of the matter that we can send up to the full task force, right?
Well, yeah, it sounds like, again, there's kind of like those two issues. Number one, what does the DPW employees have in this particular one versus the other jurisdictional issue?
Right.
That sounds like
Yeah.
already went there.
But again, we're shining the light on the two city bodies, DPW and
Right.
OEWD.
I mean, so it sounds like perhaps some of these other things may be with individuals who are involved in these committees, perhaps, but
Yeah.
not with these city employees who are here. So
Yeah.
it sounds like DPW, the employees, turned over what they have.
And they can't compel the committees to turn over
Correct.
stuff
Right.
because they're not under our jurisdiction,
Right.
nor can we,
According to, yeah.
according to our previous findings. Yeah.
Correct.
Would you agree with that?
I think that the city, any department in the city can compel it. There's other clauses in there where employee or agency of the city, and it doesn't specify which ones.
That's true. I mean, we've kind of already addressed that, though, in our
Okay.
full task force,
Right.
as to that we didn't see that committee as falling under our jurisdiction, so it hasn't risen to that
Well,
level.
that was only about videotaping of a meeting.
It was actually the jurisdictional issue, not, we
Right.
didn't even make it to the videotaping portion.
Right,
It was
okay.
whether or not that committee we even have jurisdiction over.
Okay, and so even
So-
with this new evidence, because this all came,
Well, this one in particular, to me, looks like it's, again, with Public Works, not with the committee.
right,
So I think, I'm just looking at this particular file number. Seems
Okay.
to be much more, I think we need to deal with the issue of Public Works and the employees of Public Works separate from the committees. I think those are two different things. And so I think we kind of need to keep this particular file number, within the scope of what does Public Works have.
oh, I see.
Right, and it sounds like Public Works has already released to you everything that they have on these
Within there,
within there, and that, unfortunately, that is the scope, and that's the confines in which we're operating for this particular item.
so they can't go out, even though they're the ones that are involved in the committees. They're at the meetings.
That once they get to the committees, then we lose jurisdiction. That was our previous findings.
I mean, I'm trying to think, let's say I'm on the committee, just, hypothetically, and they were to give me a file, delete their copy, and I were to have, I'm not sure how,
Well,
me not being, a DPW
Because-
employee, how they would compel me to.
because they have, they have contractors that are also at these meetings. They're the ones that actually do most of the work. Not the actual committee itself. They're the ones that employ the outside subcontractors. Anything that they produce is a product of the city under the contract. I mean, that's what the contract says.
I mean,
And so, and basically, the committee is part of that.
so okay, just to back up, so there's DPW, then it sounds like there's contractors,
Parks and
and then there's the
Committee.
committee. So we've already dealt with the committee
committee.
issue. That was jurisdictional, that was a separate one. We're on DPW for this particular file number. I wonder if, perhaps dealing with the contractors as a separate, almost a third entity in this is still a place that,
And perhaps-
might be able to
Yeah, perhaps our
explore.
clerk can comment, because I know we've talked about this a lot with, what's the term, is it, falls under L?
Actually, the contractor wouldn't be a 12L because
not
they're
be.
not a nonprofit. They're for hire.
Right.
However, if it's something in possession of the contractor, unless there's something in their contract saying that they're going to comply with sunshine, they usually doesn't apply. But again, if the contractor has it, they should be in possession of Public Works already.
Right, and not deleted.
Yes.
I mean, as far as this particular file number goes, I think we're kind of in the same place we were with the prior one, where it sounds like they've, at least DPW has turned over everything they have. I mean, I don't think there's no one's arguing that, what they have isn't within,
Yeah, this is
isn't
not a case of,
jurisdictional.
there was a document, it's not there. This is, as far as DPW is concerned, they've responded to this.
Right, right.
To this request. But Mr. Sullivan's argument is, well, there may be documents responsive in the possession of Parks Alliance, the contractor. So that could be a question the full task force could determine. Do we, if it's not 12L, is it something else? And could we compel?
The contract, right?
Right. That's probably enough to send it up, I think, there.
Yeah.
Yes, you can respond.
So even this is not my complaint. I want to explain. This is it's a very confusing process, and trust me, after 15 years, even I find it very confusing. So here's how the Green Benefit District and all of these things work. The community goes to a supervisor or to Rec and Park or to whomever, and they say, we want to explore this process. In this particular instance, also you'll notice he does have all the documents that OEWD gave him the contract and all the emails where we ended the contract. So they never even billed us because the contract never moved forward. So I want to explain that piece. Public Works.
Who's they? Parks Alliance?
That contract was voided out because we did not move forward with it. So here's what it needs to be explained. Public Works, Rec and Park do not have a mechanism to go out with money. So if they were going to hire a contractor for this, the mechanism would be OEWD. They do an add back. In this case, it was an add back from the supervisor, who's no longer here. He gives OEWD the funds through an internal mechanism. And then through that process, we go out, because we're the holders of that contract. Mr. Sullivan has all the emails that detail that we went out with a process, they responded to it, they never billed us because they ended up closing out the contract. He has all of those documents. It would not be on them to hold that document because they were not the negotiating agency. It would be on OEWD, who had the documents, who gave them to Mr. Sullivan, to hold those documents because we're the ones who negotiated with Build, with Parks Alliance, so that's why they would not have that. I mean, I know it's a very confusing process, but right, only certain city departments can go out with an RFP or with an RFQ and say, hey, can we find someone to help this group of residents form or not form? And it happens a lot, believe it or not. I mean, we have a lot of people who come to us and say, we want to explore this process. And so that's why they would not have that record.
Okay. Just curious, did you go into a contract with another outside?
No.
No contractors?
There's no, and he has all the emails that explain why that was dissolved. And to include, he has the emails, again, very expansive. We found he didn't just get Chris Corgus's emails. He got our finance office's emails that explain why we never billed, why we never moved forward with the contract. So it wouldn't be on them.
So there's, as yet, and there has not been an outside contractor handling the meetings, agendas, minutes of this Dolores Park GBD?
They're not. They didn't bill for it. We're not in contract negotiations with them. And you can correct me if that's.
It has to be into the microphone,
If you
please.
could step up.
Sorry.
Thanks.
We are referring to the public records requests that were made in April of 2018, correct?
I believe that's the, yes, that's the,
So the agreement between OEWD and Parks Alliance is dated July 1st, 2018. So there was no contract that I was aware of with Parks Alliance until it was executed on July 1st, 2018, which is after the date that the requests were made.
So
hold on one second.
I guess I have a quick question for the petitioner, Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah.
So what? Just to there's a lot going on here. So just to back up a little bit, what specifically, just to clarify, are you looking for from DPW? Just to.
I'm looking for.
That you haven't received.
That you haven't received yet, correct?
Okay. So I asked for meetings that ranged from May that Jonathan organized with the MDG, with the MDDGGB, to October, there are meetings, all right? There was a For me, there was a contract that was issued on April 1st to June 1st on the MDD for the SF Park Alliance. Well, it was billed public, and they did get $10,000 out of that contract, $10,300 something. Then they issued another one to SF because Place Lab moved to SF Park Alliance and billed public dissolved. So they issued another contract on June 1st for the same contractor, basically same people, and they've been under contract for then too. So basically, from April 1st to now, even currently, there's still a contract for this formation committee, for the consultants to help this formation committee. And so they should be receiving things. I have the contract, the front page of the $66,000 one from April 1st to June 30th. I have the cover sheet for that here.
Is that in our packet?
No, I didn't, because I didn't know this would be an issue.
Yeah, and that's the contract that we saw on 797, basically. That's that July 1st contract, right?
Yeah, it starts, July 1st, because the other contract had ended June 30th. But these contractors, there's emails that show that they've been working with the formation committee since April 1st.
Well, I think this is interesting enough for the full task force to dissect where these contractors fall. I mean, you had a nice explanation, which hopefully you'll come and provide again when this goes to the full task force.
Can it be done under this file number since the contractor was not named as an original respondent? I mean, would it be better to suggest that Mr. Sullivan refile using SF Parks Alliance as the respondent, and then we can handle that singular issue separate from the DPW issue? I think would be perhaps a clearer way to do it, and we can at least handle this portion, which is the DPW employees themselves, separate from the contractor. And I think I think the contractor is definitely something worth exploring. I'm just not sure it's under this file number.
Or we can throw it up at the full committee and say, we think that we should examine whether the contractors de facto are under the umbrella of
We could do that
DPW.
as well.
I mean, that would keep the file moving forward more timely. Mr. Hooper, go ahead. If you want to respond, I'll let you, since you're well informed in these
Thank
things.
you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, John Hooper again. Just for a point of clarification, in my February 11th Public Records Act request, I sent that to DPW, OEWD, everybody under the face of the sun, including Parks Alliance. The specific items of information that I never received are logically housed at Parks Alliance. Now, one way to make this clear is these city contracts to a proxy, to Parks Alliance in this case, are very detailed, and they're based on deliverables. And they're things like the sign-up sheet for a given meeting with the formation committee. You will be paid $500 when you hand it in. When you prepare the agenda for the formation committee's next meeting, Parks Alliance, you will be paid a certain amount of money. So the nexus between the formation committees, which you were attempted to be led to believe are just these informal neighborhood groups, and the city money going to the proxy, Parks Alliance, are very close. Parks Alliance, the city's agent, is doing all this work, and you can go right to, I mean, you have the right to do this, you can do it tomorrow. That it's spelled out in those contracts exactly when they get paid on what deliverable. And it really is down to the detail of when you hand in a photocopy of the sign-up sheet from last night's meeting, you will be paid a certain amount of money. So it's all there. It is.
And your argument is that's the work product of the city, since it's under
That is
contract.
all paid for by the city. It's all part of the city's work product, and it's spelled out in detail in the letter, my February 11th letter. I go into that detail why that city-produced information is under the category of things we have a right to look at.
Right, I would imagine if I don't know if it's in this packet or if it's a separate addendum that you're speaking of, but I would assume that if they're handing this stuff over to the city, then obviously, to get payment to proof they did the work, then if the city has that would certainly be a public record at that point. It wouldn't even need to go through the contractor. Obviously, if they're giving it to the city for payment,
Right, if
the
you-
city should have it.
I agree.
I mean, so is that in the contract that was submitted in this packet? That this like, where
That
they submit
that
the
level
sign-up
of
sheet?
detail.
and-
In my packet, I did not submit the contract. It's a standard OEWD contract, which makes it very clear that anything produced under the contract is the property of the city of San Francisco, and therefore under your auspices.
I mean,
That's pretty compelling.
yeah, I mean, I would just wonder where those things are being submitted. Is it to
Well,
DPW? Is it to
I-
ID?
I
Is
was-
it to like some type of like accounts payable? I mean,
Someone from the city can probably answer that question better than I can, but presumably the city has allocated, in this case for the Mission Dolores, $156,900. And it pays against deliverables,
Right.
such as the ones I've mentioned. So presumably somebody, before they write that check
have
against,
the deliverable
against the
item.
appropriation, they have to have shown they've delivered.
Okay, thank
So
you.
I don't know
Thank you.
exactly how that's done,
That's
but
very informative.
Yeah.
Marianne,
Okay,
if you could
thank
approach.
you.
Yeah, I think you had an answer to that. So we're kind of getting down to the nitty gritty.
We're getting down, yeah, so absolutely. And again, all in the sake of transparency, they have all those contracts. The OEWD is.
They have the deliverables, because that's what they're after.
There-
Yeah, the
that's
deliverables.
so that is not necessarily how those contracts are managed. Each contract, depending on how we went out with the RFP or the RFQ, may have a completely different set of billing instructions. It's not all deliverable based, and it's not if you turn in a sign-up sheet.
Let me ask you, let me just stop you there. For the ones
Yeah.
that are deliverable based, as they seem to think there are some, have you provided those deliverables to the petitioner? If you have not,
They
that might be what we're going to discuss at the full task force.
Correct.
So-
So they have all the documents that we have, that, again, I gave them the documents from our finance department that shows what was billed and how it was billed. I would not know these things off the top of my head, but I do very clearly remember sending them the documents of what was billed and how it was billed. And that some of those contracts were in fact canceled because I really.
That's
and I-
okay, but
yeah.
specifically, I mean, what was billed? Like, let's talk deliverables. Let's keep the language
right,
apples
just
to apples.
not to interrupt, but just quickly on, if you look to page 826, it looks like there's some type of list of 10 deliverables that was part of that contract.
826?
826, yes.
There we go.
So,
Deliverable 1 through 10, Buena Vista Survey Report, budget amount, feasibility survey report, ballot materials, letter to property owners, etc. Have those documents been produced?
If those deliverables had been submitted as part of an invoice prior to the issuing of this public records request, I would, without a doubt, understand that those would be part of whatever is released.
Okay, so their public records request spans May till October of 2018. These deliverables are,
that looks like it's part of the July 1st contract, so
It's
I'm
part-
not sure if they may not have been delivered at the time of the initial.
but the fact that they're on there, I see. So this is basically telling the contractor what you're going to get for delivering these items. This is basically the menu, if you like.
Yeah, how they get their funding, it looks like. So once they turn in one of these items to the city, they get their payment.
Okay. And if this contract, this contract is alive and well, correct? This July 1st contract? Yes, okay. So here's the question to you. Have these deliverables arrived? Have these been paid for? And if so, if it falls outside of the scope of October 29th, 2018, fair enough, then he'll have to submit a separate records request for a date spanning up until present to get those deliverables.
Sure. So I know that some of those deliverables have been produced. I can't identify the specific ones that
Off the
have
top of
been.
your head.
Yeah.
Okay. So if Mr. Sullivan was to file a separate records request October 30th to present day for all documents
Sure.
relative to...
Sure. I also but I also want to remind him that, because it seems what it appears to me is that everyone here seems a little focused on sign-in sheets. Even if we have those sign-in sheets, we will still have to redact them for personal emails and things like that. So, yeah, we do. That is part of our records, and that is part of good government. So, because we want to make sure that when residents attend a meeting in their community, that they feel safe, that they don't feel that attending that meeting they will be retaliated against
Right.
by another resident, or
That's fine, and we're
Yeah.
okay with, if things are correctly redacted, that's appropriate. But in fact, the case that you had before you was exactly about that.
Yeah.
So
So-
we interpret redaction a little more on the side of the petitioner than the good government guide, which we do not go by, just so you know that.
okay, well, we do.
I know you're
Yeah.
it's recommended to go by it, but we go by the law, which is different, and
Okay.
sometimes above that.
Regardless, there's no redacted
Yeah.
thing yet, so.
Not here. So, if you could approach, sure. I'll give you some time. I think we're getting this close to.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't need.
Not ready, right? So-
We're getting closer.
I just note
Yeah.
to your question.
Member Yankee.
Yeah. What is it from Public Works that, from what I can tell, he's saying that he's not saying that we've withheld anything that we have. We've given him everything we have. If the idea is to go to the contractor, again, the contract wasn't with our department, so we wouldn't have any control over them. I'm not saying don't send us up to the full task force, but I'm not sure not what the point would be, but what could come of that. I've given him everything we have, and I don't have the ability, because if the idea is to compel someone else, I don't have.
Well,
they're
there's
not
a
contract.
clause in the charter that says 6720C that you are obliged to point them in the right direction to get that
Right.
joint work product, whatever it is. In which case, if it's bouncing it back to OEW or another department, that would be, you are obligated to do that. Go ahead.
I mean, I get that point. I mean, I think it's valid that I'm not sure, under this file number, I think we kind of,
Yeah.
batted the idea around earlier. If this is the best mechanism to do it, I mean, I'm not sure bringing Public Works, I mean, it's definitely, I think, something we need to discuss more in depth about the contractor. I'm just not sure this is the best way to do it. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Well,
Open?
I mean, I
It appears that that question is undecided at this time, and it would probably be best to refer this up to the task force.
Yeah.
So that all parties are present when they talk about it.
right. I think we keep it as is. We can make some notes as to how far we got, sorting out apples to apples, oranges to oranges. In the meantime, Mr. Sullivan's free to make additional other records requests, out of different dates, phrased differently, zeroing in on what he still feels he might have access to, and hopefully you guys will deal with that as best you can. But this is kind of interesting because of the nature of the second tier. I mean, we've dispensed with the third tier, but it's the second tier that we're...
Right. I think if we refer to the task force, I think we should tie it, I'd like to see it go together with workforce development also, because
that's a good
it's very
idea.
helpful to have everyone here, because it sounds
It
like
is.
they're all kind of intertwined, and so I don't want
Right.
to, I think sending them separately would be confusing for the task force. Let's get them
That's a good idea.
kind
I
of
agree.
wrapped together.
I
Okay.
think we should combine the files.
I think we should combine the files
Okay.
and then move it up with that
If
question.
everybody is amenable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll save a lot of time. Okay.
I believe the question is, would you be agreeable to us combining the files so we can hear both files simultaneously?
What I think would be better would be that OEW would be part of the DPW thing, because OEW, Chris Corgus
Right, that's what we're talking about combining them so
Right.
that they're,
I know, but the thing is the meetings that Chris Corgus was involved in, there was no contract at. It was just a supervisor, there was the agenda. It does not involve any contractors
Right,
at that point.
right.
That's the problem.
The
Though I
dang-
do think ODEW should be.
Right. The danger of
involved
not
in
combining them
the
is that
DPW.
we have to look at them independently, specifically. And I think to have all parties here tied
Right.
all together makes more sense. I mean, we've kind of done that actually going
Right.
through.
because I think they have different parts of the contract process where,
Yeah.
one starts it, sends it to another one for funding. And so I'm not sure you'd get necessarily the resolution you'd want if just one of the two parties.
Right.
Right, but I
We're
want
going
to,
to we're going to spend as much time as though it was two cases. That's not.
Okay.
We're not like shortening it or anything. It's just allowing all parties to be questioned as we go through. It's
Okay.
It makes more sense. We do that quite often.
I just wanted to point out that when they asked about whether deliverables were being asked, Jonathan was Mr. Goldberg from DPW was the one that came in and responded to that. And the contract specifically say any city employee can get the contractor to thing. And I'm talking about more than deliverables, because I know that anything in the work product to make those deliverables is still the city product.
Mr. Chairman, my suggestion is to just refer these two, and we can call them together, but keep the files separate.
Okay.
That way we don't have to double the discussion when we get to.
Right.
the
That's
full
fine,
task.
just, yeah, as long as we schedule them.
Schedule
same
and call them
meeting.
together,
Yeah.
however, the complaints will be considered separately.
Okay.
Yeah, that would work.
And that jurisdiction has not been contested.
And I'd just like to note that the petitioner has agreed to calling them together at the full task force, and
Thank
we
you.
will note it on the agenda.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. And I'd like to get some summary in there, if you would, just about, looking at the relationship of DPW and OEW to the contractor, Parks Alliance.
Yeah, kind of the.
Just
the-
zero in on that.
The three different tiers. The
Yeah.
middle tier, I think, is what we want. I think the task force
Right.
focus on most, which is the contractor.
Yeah, the contractor
case.
tier, yes. Just
I
kinda-
don't want them confused me saying
just-
that it's
just-
about the committee. I know that was a separate.
Right. Okay, all right. Yes, go ahead.
Not because I need the last word, but we fully, wholeheartedly agree that they should go together, because if in this conversation it's been very confusing for you guys, just imagine what it would be for the full board coming into this together. And
Right.
we will definitely work with you, even if it's like an overview document of like the contract flow or the flow or the process of how this works. Again, our office is fully about transparency, but I also want to make sure two things happen at the end of this. One, I do want to make sure that residents in San Francisco who attend these meetings, whether formally or informally, feel safe and comfortable that they will not be retaliated against by a neighbor. And two, I'd also like it clarified that employees of the city and county, because individuals who are here have also sunjined us for employees' records, for employee job reviews, job descriptions. So I want to make sure that as we move forward, that as part of good government, we're not being pointed and directed at an individual employee,
Right.
or that we are not being used as a tool against a community. And since OEWD is heavily into the community, heavily into providing cleaner, safer streets, providing healthier parks, we just want to make sure that that happens as we move forward in this process, because that has been some of those sunshine requests.
On that note, if the full task force does compel you to produce certain documents, you may want to bring your redaction policy, have it handy, just so we can discuss
Absolutely.
that. It sounds like you have a good one. So just to have that handy and explain how you've done it in the past, how you do it going forward, would probably save some time as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, so I think you have the basis of the motion there. Do you
I
need to
believe we do need to verbalize it. The motion is to
Yes.
find that the task force has jurisdiction, the records are public, and to refer this matter to the full task force for hearing.
And
The other part of it is just in agreement with the
Right.
petitioner that we'll call them together.
Well, I mean, did we say, I mean, we said that the DPW records are public, but I think we need to also talk about the jurisdictional issue over the contractor. I'm not sure how to, because I'm not sure we've determined that is necessarily.
Right. The jurisdiction is not being contested by DPW or EW, but we
Unresolved with the contractor.
correct. I think that might be something to have them focus right into.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Well, we can ask the department to look into that, but the complaint's not against the contractor.
Right.
But be prepared to address the issue when we come back to the hearing.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Public comment on that motion. Seeing no public comment,
Call the roll.
please.
Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Member Hensy?
Aye.
Member Hensy, aye. Chair Hyland?
Aye.
Chair Hyland, aye. The motion passes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, especially for all coming together. That was very informative. Hopefully we'll get this squared away at the full task force. You've got some good notes on yours because I
Yeah.
may not be at that next meeting
Okay.
when it eventually does come
Yeah.
up. Okay, if it's July meeting. Right.
Item number 4.
Yes, let's go back to item number, and I wonder if we can
We can call
these-
them both at the same
call
time.
these together, yeah.
All right.
Beat me to it.
Item number 4, file number 18012, hearing on the status of the order of determination. Complaint filed by Denta Tedeschi against Lori Mazzola, City Hall Building Management for violating Administrative Code Section 6713A by failing to allow access to a meeting of a policy body. Item number 5, file number 18028, hearing on the status of the order of determination. Complaint filed by Denta Tedeschi against the Sheriff's Department for violating Administrative Code Section 6713A by failing to allow access to a meeting of a policy body.
Mr. Chairman, may I provide the overview for the benefit of the other members?
Yep.
I believe at the last meeting of the Compliance Amendments Committee, the Office of the Sheriff representative attended and stated that they were training their employees in the new policy regarding entry into City Hall with dogs off leash. They were training their staff over a week-long process, which should have occurred by now. At that time, we also asked that the petitioner, if possible, test to see if that policy was in place. However, Mr. Tedeschi has stated he isn't fair to test the policy, and we have no way to find out if it works or not. My suggestion for this case, since the Office of the Sheriff has stated they have done the training, is to find that they have complied with the order of determination, and if Mr. Tedeschi has a problem in the future, he can file an additional complaint.
Okay, yeah, so I'm looking at page 95. There's a letter of May 15th where he basically declines to test it. I think we can go a little further. I think we can ask the Sheriff's Department to send us the new training material, the new signage around the building, if there is such a signage, and just something that shows that they...
Yeah, I agree. It was some type of
Yeah, I
written
mean-
confirmation that.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to take a look at the training materials.
Right. And, you know, I don't think we can compel them to write Mr. Tedeschi a letter
Right.
personally, because this is more of a general policy thing.
Yeah.
But I think something from the department showing all the options and the procedure by which you ask the 2 questions and all that
Yeah,
Yeah.
would I think is certainly reasonable
I agree.
to give to Mr. Tedeschi. So that would be my recommendation. I don't think I'm ready to find that they've complied 100% yet. And then really the same goes for, and I wish we'd set these, you know, benchmarks at the last meeting rather than just saying, let's see if it works.
Yeah,
You know.
better to.
At the last meeting, they said within a week's time, they were going to train all their staff
They did.
within the following week.
They did. So
That's what they said.
I think we just wish that we had sort of set these metrics rather than telling Mr. Tedeschi to go test it himself.
And just curious, Cheryl, so we got notice that Mr. Tedeschi wouldn't be here, but did the
I never heard
respondents?
anything from the sheriff's office. I notified Ms. Hennessy and the public records
That this meeting was
email
happening?
that this meeting was happening, and I sent a copy of the agenda link to Mr. Nico, who is their legal counsel.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's interesting, because they've showed up to everything else.
Right,
Why-
and
why-
it would have been, just possibly if they had come and was able to show us that document, that would have been very helpful, but.
Did they give any indication they weren't going to show up today?
I never heard anything. And
Okay.
the gentleman that showed up at the last hearing was a captain. I can look up his name when I go back to
Yeah, I
my
think he's one
desk.
of the,
Yeah, he's one of the supervisors.
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh-oh.
So
Yeah.
I think I'd like to get back to them and say your absence was noted at the meeting. The committee is requesting the new training, the new training material that you have now provided to all your staff. And in particular, we'll be curious to see the level of detail regarding, ADA entrance to the building. I think that's a reasonable request.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then give them a date, please comply with this by, give them a week.
If we do receive that, do you still want them to come back for a hearing?
Well, let's get that first. I
Yeah.
mean, if,
Well, the thing is, if we don't make the decision in open session, we have to schedule another hearing.
well, I think we should continue this.
Yeah, I think it needs to be continued. to
Because it's
another-
not resolved in my eyes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We might get it and say this is not sufficient,
Yeah.
so I think we need
Right.
to,
When we get it,
officially close it on another
when we
meeting.
get it, I'll take a look at it and see.
Okay. So we can
What's up?
continue this probably to the next, probably back to the CAC.
I
Probably
don't
back-
think there's a big time rush on this one, so if we can just continue it,
Well,
let's just continue to the call of the chair, and we will schedule it at the next available CAC or EOTC meeting.
Yeah. Well, maybe maybe he has other business in City Hall we don't know about that feels he can't attend to because, so I think there is some.
I would like to give him some type of closure. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
want the.
yeah, this has been dragging on long enough.
Okay.
I think I would like to,
We can refer to the Compliance Amendments Committee
Yeah.
for next month's June 18th meeting.
yes.
With a
That works.
request
Yeah.
to the sheriff to provide the requested documents, and do you want them, of course, we would like to request them to attend.
Yes.
And regarding the city administrator, since they're not really involved anymore, how would you like to handle that one?
Let me take a look at that one.
Is that the part with file number 4, it looks like, right?
Because they defer to the sheriff.
So, right, so file number,
4 is Lori.
right,
Okay, so,
5 is the sheriff.
well, but then, they're the ones basically, no, they need to also have because they misquoted the ADA in the past, if I remember. They read something which was wrong. So I'd like to see their
I
new
don't know that it
policies
was
as well.
wrong. I think they just got new advice from their
Incomplete.
DCA that this
Well.
wasn't a,
Cheryl, can you turn into the mic, please?
And I'm going back over,
Yeah.
multiple hearings.
Well,
here,
I
so
think having everyone at the meeting makes sense so that everyone's on the same page.
We're going to call it together. We'd like the, building hall management to be here. I don't think we gave them any directive as to them complying with this, did we? In the previous,
I don't believe you had.
I think we should have. I wish we had. I
It
don't
says.
know what we do, though.
I mean, maybe,
Because, there's a whole dynamic about when something's, they call them back, they leave it to the sheriff's department, and boots on the ground.
well,
to
if they
make
get a
the
copy
call.
of the sheriff's department training,
I think
we
that's
can maybe facilitate that
Yeah.
at the meeting. Say,
Yeah.
hey, here's the training that the sheriff has. Make sure that everyone in building management is aware of this and
And does building management now have a copy of that
Right.
training?
yeah.
Okay.
Be that.
I don't believe that's a direction, but that's something we can discuss. We can request that they attend. so
We're going to
that-
call it together, and we're going to attend,
Yes.
and we're
But there's
expect-
no specific instructions for them in the
Right,
meantime.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
But maybe at the meeting, that could be facilitated, so.
Yes.
so I'm going to have to do a lot of convincing to Mr. Tedeschi that it's safe for him to,
I don't need to. We need
I
to
was like,
do
I don't
that.
think we need to have him come.
do that,
we don't
no.
need that?
I mean,
Well, the thing.
he can, but I don't think that's a reason to not have,
It is not the goal of the task force to enforce policy. It is to enforce sunshine. And all we are ensuring is that there is
He
a
doesn't need-
policy
Yeah.
in place.
So that you can access future meetings.
Actually, he doesn't have to be here for the meeting.
no, I don't think
In
there's,
fact-
I mean,
In fact, we should have specified this at the last meeting and had them produce.
right, they're
training.
really, yeah, otherwise it's just having him test the policy, which obviously he feels uncomfortable with.
Right.
So I don't want to put him in that
So
position.
it's voluntary for him,
Okay.
but we're gonna,
I know that it's going to happen, but
yeah, exactly. If he wants to leave his dog with a friend and attend, he's welcome to do that. But we're basically gonna get the new
policy
in writing
from the
which-
sheriff's office.
from the sheriff's office. That's what we're asking them to
Yeah.
produce.
I can email Mark Nico in the morning
Okay.
that request.
I wish we could compel something from the city hall building management as well. I mean,
I emailed Lawyer Mazzola, so
no, I mean, not about them not showing up, but, you know, something, I mean, I guess it's the same document that we want. And,
that we would get it from the sheriff's office, and
I mean-
they also be in possession of it too.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, right, if they don't, if we get it from the sheriff's office, sounds like they have one. If we get it from them, we could, if building management doesn't already have a copy of it, then we could certainly then, I think,
Then
facilitate
we could
that.
provide it in the packet.
Cheryl, talking to the mic.
Maggie, she is, sort of.
You just can't see me.
Oh, no, I can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
And it's not recorded if you can't hear you.
Okay. So how about this, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but City Hall building management also manages other city buildings?
I'm not aware of that
I don't know
that
what
type
that
of
It's just them, they don't, not across the street or none of those buildings? That's not them?
Well, they're called City Hall Building Management, and they have their own manager.
Okay, and it's just this?
Yes.
It does say,
Okay.
yeah, it's
The
a
city
hall.
administrator may manage other buildings, but
I see. Okay, and since
I
they're
believe
named,
this is against the City Hall Building Manager.
it is against
Yeah,
them.
it does
So I'd like them to acknowledge that their policy on entry to the building manual has been updated with the sheriff's department's document,
Yeah, that'd be good.
received and recorded, something like that.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
And we want them to be here to acknowledge that in
That
person.
they have it,
If
exactly.
they want to do it in writing, that'd be even better. So how about that? Just to kind of
Sure.
slap them with what we have.
So I believe the motion will be to refer this matter to the Compliance Amendments Committee with instructions to the two respondents.
To appear and specifically the sheriff's department to provide updated building entry manual reflecting our order of determination.
Yes.
Yep. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Seeing no public in the room, there's no public comment on this motion. Oh, and one piece to that amendment is we also want City Hall Building Management to acknowledge that this updated manual, this updated training is now part of their manual for entry to City Hall in whatever form they'd like to provide that to us.
Yes.
The maker of the motion, accept that amendment?
Accept the amendment.
Second?
Yep.
All right, no public comment on the amended motion. We'll take a roll on that when you're ready.
Member Yankee?
Aye.
Member Yankee, aye. Member Hensy?
Aye.
Member Hensy, aye. Chair Hyland?
Aye.
Chair Hyland, aye. The motion with the amendment passes.
Okay.
Next item. Adjournment.
All right.
And the time is?
Meeting adjourned at 6:12. Microphones off, please. Good work, guys.
Not too bad.
Yeah, that got interesting.